nourishing the mind, body, and soul for the Asian diaspora. Have you eaten? Hi, everyone. This is Ji again with another episode of Have You Eaten? And today I'm excited to introduce Lauren to you. And before we get into having the conversation, I wanted to tell you all why I have Lauren on. Lauren and I met a few months ago, and we did a collaboration at the San Diego County Fair. And what really came up for me when I met her is she just embodies community. She embodies acts of service in this most beautiful way. And you can tell just from her energy too, she's not asking for anything in return. And that's just such a unique thing about someone. And so I wanted you all to meet this beautiful human being. And as you know, we always start with, how do you identify, Lauren?
Hello, everyone. I was like, I'm going to get emotional right off the bat. Oh my goodness, because it's a lot. The community work side. We'll dive into that. But hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Balcita Garces. I would say I identify as a Filipina American. I grew up in Hawaii. I'm not Hawaiian, but I was so grateful to grow up around all the Pacific Islander and Pan Asian cultures there. So I do consider myself an Islander girl and spirit at heart. Like I really want to always like body the Aloha spirit, and maybe hopefully that exudes out to folks at the same time. I am a granddaughter and daughter of immigrants. Some of my family's from the Philippines, of course, and they came here by way of the military and other opportunities. And so I've been a military child as well. And my mom is an artist. And so I think a lot of what she showed me in the world and like thinking about the world has also made me an artist. So I consider myself an artist, creator. I do event production. And that's how we met, G. And along the way, just really found so much love in the community and surrounded by my chosen family there. So just a few fun ways that I like to identify.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I want to get into the work that you do. Will you share? I mean, you have so many roles within the community and you do so many amazing things. I don't want to miss anything. So share with us all the organizations that you're part of, because you own a company as well.
My jaw dropped because when you say share all the organizations you work with, I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. It's so hard to count. But yes, I do own my own event production company called Social Artistry. And I love diving into this specifically. I've been doing event production for pretty much 14 years now. So I was doing it like in college, right out of college, and then just kept following this path of supporting the community with my skills through event production, continuing to build that. And so I specifically started my company in 2020, though, and formed my own LLC called Social Artistry because the pandemic happened. We were seeing so many things happen within our community. Again, just the racial reckoning of what is the work that we need to do to make our communities better, to stop the hurt and hate that we were seeing happening during the pandemic, when again it was a very scary time for so many people. So the concept of social artistry for me is really about how we empower our multicultural communities to have a voice and a platform, to be advocated for, to be supported, to feel empowered, to share their cultures with other people and build understanding. So it's really done again through the artistry of how we connect the social aspect of all people coming together and building community with each other. So that's a little bit about my company. I work with a lot of different nonprofits. So through the 14 years, I really leaned into supporting different multicultural organizations and nonprofits and grassroots organizing. And so just a few that I'm like particularly proud of right off the top of my head. I work with the Convoy Pan Asian Cultural and Business Innovation District. Convoy District Partnership is the nonprofit that helped advocate for that official designation here in San Diego. So we have a very special neighborhood, really, where so many Pan Asian communities started a livelihood and
Mm.
built something for the future, just by serving the people in the community that they were in. And it's grown to be one of the largest Pan-Asian business centers in Southern California. So we're very excited about that designation. And we ended up raising funds to get freeway signs. So on the 805 North and South, and here in San Diego, we have freeway signs that say Convoy Asian Cultural District, which just really makes you feel like we're on the map. We have stories to tell. We have so many great food and dessert options and all kinds of services to share with others. And then also just like looking towards the future of, again, what does that mean for our community as we grow? So I also serve as the co-chair for the San Diego Asian Pacific Islander Coalition. Um, we formed during the pandemic because, again, we were seeing a lot of anti-Asian hate.
Mm.
We were seeing death in our communities, and we were grieving. And I'll say that this is the part that gets me really emotional, because those feelings were very valid, because we saw
Mhm.
people that were like our mothers, our grandmothers, feeling afraid to go out. And so many of our community organizations rallied together. We had allies in the community sign letters denouncing the discrimination and violence we were seeing across the country. We got a few elected officials to also amplify the message to the community. And really, at the time, there was like over 100 organizations, individuals, signing on to support this effort. And it ended up forming this really fantastic coalition. So we now are 40 plus Asian and Pacific Islanders serving
Mm.
organizations across San Diego County. We meet monthly, but we also support each other throughout the year with all of the different programs that support our API community in San Diego. So also proud to serve there. And yeah, I get involved with a lot of really wonderful projects across San Diego, and with really so many wonderful nonprofits and community groups.
I started tearing up when you started talking about the Asian hate stuff, and Hello Happy. Kind of, we've been taking a stand to not be overly political. We want to showcase all the different multifaceted parts of our community, but we've had this like stance of like not going too political, right? But when you
Mm-hmm.
started talking about it, I started tearing up because I remember, the fear for our elders, and just the sadness and like the constant barrage of like of social media, showing us all of this hate. And yeah, it still brings up a little bit of, oh, and it's so amazing how much work that you're putting into it. And you know what? I was curious as you're like telling us everything that you're working on, like, how did you get to that point? Because I feel like you have this very deep sense of, I don't even know what you would call it, but just this acts of service that's just so, no other word but beautiful. And you could tell just the way you talk about things. It's just such an authentic, true, real thing within you. And I'm always curious, like, what motivates people, and how did you get into this work?
Ooh, that is, I think the tears are going to start falling, and that's fine, and that's real, and I think we should
Yes.
cry. I cried a lot during the pandemic because of everything we were seeing, but that's that's in a way that like stuff that fueled me. And again, there was so many layers to what you said that I'd love to like dive into eventually. Like, I do think we need to get political in whatever level that means for folks, but at the very least, when you can vote, vote because it matters.
Hmm.
Stuff like that.
Yes.
But yeah, I think just taking it back to why I do this, how I do this, it's so many beautiful people that I meet along the journey that I'm so grateful for, that inspire me, and we just can't do this work alone. And those people are my chosen family, because they also too are like always giving so much of themselves to give back, and figuring out what it means to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of our community.
Mm.
Um, I think I'm so grateful to just really have grown up in a place like Hawaii. I was born in California, but by way of military, my dad was stationed on Oahu. And so I like since first grade grew up around Pan-Asian, Pan-Pacific Islander communities. And when you're surrounded in it and you know how beautiful it is for all of them to come together and just support each other and uplift each other without ever having to think about it or without ever having to like put in the extra effort to do so, just because it's like a warm embrace around you all the time. It's so beautiful. And then I wanted to spread my wings because I got island fever there, and the pace in Hawaii was not what I wanted when I was graduating high school. I wanted to like spread my wings and be free, and whatever that meant. But I went to college in San Diego because it was still close to home. It was a 5-6 hour plane ride, so my family wasn't too sad because there's just a short plane ride away. Um, and I was like in such a big culture shock because I went to college and I realized like, oh, I can be a minority in places. I
Mm.
never had to grow up thinking about that, fortunately. Um, and I just like was immediately like put face to face with that in college. And my biggest feelings, and so many people's feelings, I think, is like, where's my place of belonging? And just at so many different stages of our lives, we'll have that conversation with ourselves. But yeah, right. Going into college, I was like, where do I belong? Where's my community? I don't have any friends or family here, originally in San Diego. And so it was such a big step and it was very uncomfortable, but I started diving into finding folks that I felt comfortable around, and I found multicultural organizations on campus. So things like the Asian Pacific Student Alliance, APSA, and very big for me. I joined the Filipino Andres Bonifacio Samahan at San Diego State University, and I was immediately I just besides looking like each other, they were just welcoming with a smile. They were like, "Hey, do you want to go eat later?" And I'm like, "These are people that I want to be around." They introduced me to Convoy. Again, some of them were locals or
Mm.
some of them were also like coming to San Diego for the first time. But we met in Convoy. We had boba in Convoy. I was introduced to more types of like Korean barbecue and different styles of Asian food, which is surprising because there's a lot in Hawaii. And I was like, there's more out here. Uh, it's so fun to be able to give back to a neighborhood that was that for me. It made me
Mm.
felt like I belonged. It made me feel like when I walked around, I had a community and that I had a place to feel safe. And so, yeah, I think so much of the work that I do is rooted in how do we create spaces of belonging for others, because it was something I needed when I came here. And so it's again a very heartwarming and humbling thing to do, to be able to give back to that in any way that I can. And the way I do that is through events, just because I feel the ways that you create events and create experiences for other people, that they can take away that feeling and take it on into the other work and world that they enter into. It's a beautiful thing for me, and I think that's really so why it's so close to my heart, and why I do what I do.
While you were talking about belonging, what came up for me was, um, so from my experience, I've been in rooms where people look like me and I still didn't feel like I belonged. And
Hmm.
what occurred to me while you're talking is you're, while you were looking for spaces to belong, like you were creating spaces for people to belong. And I think belonging starts with us, and belonging starts with like the people that we're around, and not necessarily, you know, um, like the superficial stuff. And so that's why I that's why I admire you so much, because I think you create it. Like you yes, you came here and you may not have known anyone and you wanted to find a place where you belong, but you created that at the end of the day. And I think that's an amazing story. And the fact that you're continuing to give back. Can you tell I'm a total stan of Lauren, because I can't stop talking about
I swear the tears are like literally just hanging right here. They're like, "Are you ready to come out?"
Yeah. Well, because so I have a friend named Christine Coleman, and she once said, and I'm going to butcher the exact quote, but something to the effect of, um, self-care, so self-care is acts of service, right? So when you're being of service to other people, you're actually taking care of yourself. And I can see that with you. Yeah, I mean the stuff that you've been able to do is so amazing. So I'm curious, like what's on the horizon for your business, for Convoy, for some of these other organizations that you work with.
So much happening.
Tell us everything.
I think I also, well, we'll spend time also on just like the self-care aspect. This work is so hard, and it, again, like so much of it is volunteer too at the same time. I'll say that, like, especially at the beginning, like I, I just wanted to learn from so many people along the way. And I feel like the learning from others and like the understanding of how to be empathetic and
Mm,
also grateful for what you have, and also realize too, like, we need to be radical in the sense that, like, if we're underserved as communities too, we need to fight and advocate for that at the same time,
mhm.
and or advocate for the people who don't have the strength to do so or don't have that
Yes.
voice, or capacity either. It's very humbling work to do, but at the same time, you can't do it unless you can take care of yourself. And so, just some things that I'll do there, especially as of recently, is like I'm very dedicated now to like doing things like yoga. I've been practicing like Filipino martial arts, escriba, with my team original Doce Pares for 3 years now. And so, focusing on strengthening your mind, focusing on strengthening your body, taking care of yourself, um, then ripples out into being able to take care of other people around you, and hopefully spread that same like sort of love and aura out with others. So yeah,
I'm
I just wanted to dive into that a little.
Yeah,
But
no, I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm really, I mean, to pause on that a little bit longer, I love that you brought up self-care. Um, so can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like it, you have so many roles and responsibilities and things that you're doing to be of service. And you talked a little bit about doing yoga and the martial arts and some of the physical things. But what goes through your head? Like, are there things that go through your head where, um, so for example, one of our last guests talked about scarcity mindset and how to
Mhm.
overcome that and the fear of, financial burdens and things like that. And as a founder, I can imagine you having experienced similar things. And during those times, like, how do you take care of yourself?
Yeah, it's it's a hard path. I feel like any path you choose is going to be hard, period. And at least make it a path that you love. I think that's such a big thing, because your like head and heart will tell you like, I don't feel like I'm in the right place, or I want us to get
Mm,
to a better place. And don't get me wrong, there's like all kinds of lessons to learn along the way. I mean, being in the situation that, again, you realize like this is not the environment or team that I want to work with, or these are not aligned with the values and things that I want to create. I think having those really big, deep internal conversations with yourself are like the biggest aspect of self care for me.
mm,
Um, is just really taking the time to reflect and realign. Like, I have things like a passion planner where I'm constantly writing, and thinking through like, what are my values now? Is the work and people I'm surrounded by in line with those values? And then if not, like, what can I learn from them, or how can we get to a better place with that? And I like to say that, again, the work is hard. Like, I'm very disciplined with my schedule. I'm in all kinds of spaces and places. But I make sure that the spaces and places I'm in, again, are things that I like truly believe in, and things that I truly want to contribute to and create. And, I think going back to just the artist thing, the creator thing, like creating these spaces for others, I'm just such a believer that like artists and creators like start the dialogue for other people to
mhm,
recognize that they can too do these things, or that they can feel these things. And so the other big aspect of self-care, I think, is also feeling your feelings. So uh, highly recommend therapy if anyone can get those access to those resources, and also know that lots of cities, states offer free resources. You just have to do the work to research it a little bit, and there's all kinds of services or community groups to find that in. Just because our friends cannot always take on that emotional burden for us. I have like, some of the craziest friends too who do this work, and like I just know that all that they're going through, they can't also hold the weight of everything that I'm going through. And so it's nice again to just go through things like therapy. I'm a huge believer like in you just need to feel all of those emotions, as uncomfortable as
Mm-hmm.
they are, as intense as they are. They are there to teach you something, and like our emotions are guests. And so I always think of like, again, like we are the home, and like all these different emotions coming in. We have to sit with them. We have to welcome them as if they are guests in our home, and things like anger and sadness, as uncomfortable as they may be in your home, like they're there to teach you something. They're there to help you learn something. And sometimes the stay is temporary, or sometimes you can nurture them and have them stay longer so that you do get to a better place with them. And so those are, I think, the really deep conversations of self care that I like really continue to always reflect on, especially during the pandemic when we just had all that time really just to be
Yeah.
with ourselves and like figure out, am I comfortable? Am I home with myself? And that's the biggest thing to focus on, is like you need to be able to create a home within you. So that way, then you can create a home
Yes.
within others and with our community. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. There's so many things that you just said there that I want to dive into. Okay, for early on when you talked about your passion planner, like that made a light
Mm-hmm.
go off in my head. I'm like, whoa, what is that? Is that something that
Oh,
you learned how to do, or is that something you created on your own?
I did not create the passion planner, and I do recommend. I have it right here. My passion planner. It's like the year. This is the year of the dragon edition. It's a Filipina founder, Angelia. So she created the company Passion Planner. But it's just a new way of like planning your week, because on the sides there's like things that you want to focus on. There's different reflections of what would happen, and then they also have like monthly in between of like asking you these questions to reflect, and then also giving you space. They call it space of infinite possibilities. And I love
Oh, I
that because
love
it's like,
that.
yeah, a space that allows you to dream, space that allows you to feel, and just like, do it from your own terms. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great resource. And they have also like free online resources too, and like a great community that they've built. They just celebrated their 10-year anniversary that I worked with them on. Um, Recently too, and yeah, they're just a fantastic company. So it's cool that
Yeah,
someone
we'll
again in
look
our
that
community creates
up.
something like that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and the other thing that you mention a lot is, working with creators and creatives, and as a daughter of an immigrant also, I was never encouraged to be creative. I was always encouraged to be pragmatic, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about going to school and our education, it's never do what drives your passion. It's be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an engineer, go into finance or whatever it is. And I want to talk a little bit about that in our community too, because I think that is so important. Everything that you said about following your passion, following like where you belong in your vision and your values, which is not something that many of us have been taught to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you were talking to a young person who wants to do that, but they're being pressured, like what would your advice be to them?
Oh, what would I say to young Lauren if I was boxed? But
Hmm.
no, really. Well, my favorite thing that my mom taught me is that everyone is an artist. It doesn't matter, like, if you're, like, by definition, like a visual painting artist or these things. Like, she just said everybody is an artist. So, from our doctors to our lawyers to our finance people and accountants, like, your craft, what you do is your art. And it just should be something that you love and something that, like, excites you and fuels you. And I was like, thinking about like, how does that connect to like the bigger purpose, right? Of just like,
Mm-hmm.
is it helping other people? And I think about it in that way. But for the young folks who are, again, like pressured to be, I think we're always, when we're young too, again, you're always going to be pressured to be something or feel like you need to be something. But at those times, like the biggest like help books that helped me during those times, like Seven Habits of a Great Teen or something, I feel like highly motivated people. It was just like, be yourself
Mm-hmm.
is the thing that you're pursuing. Does it help you feel more of yourself, or do you want to take steps to another thing? And again, sometimes we don't always get the choice and options. I do think it is worth trying everything that like is put in front of us, because it's going to be put in front of us because we know we can handle it, we can take it on. And at the same time, there's a lesson there to still be learned from it. But again, deep down, your head and heart is going to continue to tell you, like, I want to keep moving in this direction, or I want to take some steps in some other direction. So my biggest thing is to like, don't ever be afraid to dream. Our
Yes.
young selves just need to continue to dream and like imagine the world in new ways, because if we keep thinking about it the same way, it's going to follow the same path. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, even as we get older, I think all these paths that we're in, think of yourself as a creator, think of yourself as an artist in your craft, and think about how you could do it differently and dream differently about what you do. Because there's always, again, space of infinite possibilities for what can be done. And I think the more we like fall in love with that magic of thinking about it that way, I think it makes life that much more exciting to
Oh, I
live.
love
So
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, can we go back and unpack this political thing that we that came up
Okay.
earlier?
Uh-huh.
So I was thinking about it, and I was a theater major, and one of the things that I wanted to do is write these life altering plays that are going to change people's minds and like whatever. And one thing that I always told myself back then when I was doing the work was the personal is political. And for some reason that came back into my head when I said, "Oh, we're trying not to be too political."
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just wanted to just clarify a little bit and kind of dive into it a little bit with you, because I feel like you're the right person to do it with. Um, yeah, but the personal is political. So when we have these conversations, on Have You Eaten, and we have these other one-on-one conversations, I feel like we are in the act of being political. And so I think when I mentioned us not being political was more about, our articles, for example, aren't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily like, you know, this happened and it's like, hard hitting news. I think that's kind of what I
Mm-hmm.
meant. But I think reverting back to what I said, like we are political. The personal is political. The things that we talk about, mental health is political.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for um, helping me kind of readjust that thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's again, and there's so many different news outlets or forms of ways that we get like news or media, and there's so much that's thrown at us all the time.
Yeah.
Um, which is sometimes too distracting too. Like, but yeah, the way that I like to think about it, and because of so many people in this community who have organized and done this work for decades and years on end, like every single right and every single privilege we have here, especially in America, has been because someone has fought, and unfortunately there's so many people that have died for those rights
Yeah.
for us. And so I actually just went on a trip recently to Atlanta, Georgia, and then also being surrounded in Alabama, and just understanding that the South has so much roots and understanding of the civil rights that our communities deserve. Um, so many Black communities were the people that really gave us the rights to vote in the first place, and so many people unfortunately
Mhm.
died for that. And so it's our duty, I feel now, to just honor that and honor the fact that we have the power to vote for people to be in
Yeah.
elected offices. people that hopefully should represent us in the best way possible, and people who need to understand that we need to give resources to underserved communities who have different barriers and challenges than us. And so really, I like to think about it in that sense more so. And I never would ever consider myself a politician, because that is just a whole hard game to be in. But I admire them, because so many people who are running for office, if their heart is in the right place, they're putting so much and serving so much of themselves for the community to hopefully do better. And I've met so many, again, great elected officials who are continuing to advocate for people that, again, don't have the resources that they need, to listen to the voices that don't get heard. And
Right.
that's the mark of like the type of politics that we do want to get involved with and support. And so, yeah, I think, again, when we're of age, like voting is probably one of the biggest and most powerful things, especially at the local level. I mean, it's a
Mm-hmm.
harder conversation, right, to talk about the whole presidency and blah, 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 especially just like the environment we're in, particularly right now. I'm just like, wow, this is the world we're in. I think so many of us are
Mm-hmm.
like, are we living in a sitcom? Because it feels like that sometimes. Um, but yes, no, seriously though, like, again, just like the power of voting, the power of getting involved and volunteering with nonprofits, and then even just like advocating for resources that nonprofits serve so many different community pockets that the government can't always do. Like, those are the things and time and energy that you can put yourself into to supporting others. So when a big phrase for myself that I like lived through the years is like survive and thrive. When you can get past the point of surviving and you're getting into the point of thriving, then you're able to give back to other people and recognize like who can I support around me and uplift around me too along the way. Just because, now again, not so many of us don't always have that privilege to be able to have that power to support others. Um, so yeah, I think I like frame and think about politics in that way, and just like
Yeah.
it's always the good of like how can we support others in a bigger way, bigger than ourselves.
See, this
Yeah.
is this is why I admire you so much, because not only are you saying all the things that it's not just words, like you actually live everything that you just talked about, you know? Yeah, I just admire you so much.
Thank you. I have
Yeah.
so many great mentors, so many great community organizations that I've learned all of this from, who have like really rooted into me, like the power of organizing work, the power of advocacy, the
Mhm.
need and necessity for it. Because if we don't do it, then we continue to see acts of hate happen across our state.
Yes.
And we don't want to see that anymore. We need to fight in a lot of different ways. So again, tackling things like mental health, tackling things like the political power, so that we do have people who represent us in office that advocate and support for under-resourced communities. Uh, Even down to just being proud of our cultures. I'm so grateful that we're like growing in representation in so many spaces,
Mhm.
like film and media, so that people
Yes.
understand our stories more and more. And I think, yeah, again, the more we get to a place of people understanding each other and being empathetic to each other and realizing we're just all human at the end of the day, and that if someone's being hurt, like, do you want to help them, or are you going to stay to yourself and be in your bubble
Mhm.
and only care about yourself? And, again, I think, yeah, the closer we move all towards like empathy and supporting each other, the better our world's going to become. So there's always work to do, but there's
Amen.
so many great
Yeah.
folks doing it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we talk about here at Hello Happy all the time is, the road to belonging is understanding, acceptance, empathy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, you just get to this belonging aspect to it, right? But it is all of those things combined that leads us to this profound sense of belonging, and then realizing too, we're all connected. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
all connected in so many ways that we don't even know. And so finding those, similarities and not focusing on the differences all the time. And then And then when you see the differences, accepting them and being curious about them. I think curiosity is a trait that we need to have more of. Um, what's next on the horizon? Like, what should we be watching out for? Like, how can we be of service back to you?
Well, oh my goodness, not to me, to our communities for sure. There's a lot of really amazing models and like foundations I feel that are built here in San Diego that don't often get recognized. And so I'm very proud of the work that again the San Diego Asian Pacific Islander Coalition does. I think we're just building a stronger foundation, especially with each other, and building programming and building capacity across our events. So like for anyone that's ever it's a lot to get into. You just don't know where to start sometimes. And I know a lot of people are like, I want to get involved with the community. Like, what should I do? I'm like, just start doing some research about like some organizations that exist, learn about the events that they're putting on, and then just like come out and support them because it means a ton. Same thing goes for supporting our small businesses. So support our multicultural communities and businesses because like people don't often recognize that we go through so many different barriers and challenges that other communities don't always often have to face. And so supporting a small business and helping them build generational wealth for their family is just like, it changes the trajectory of our communities in so many different ways. I'm particularly proud to be on part of the advisory team here in San Diego. So the San Diego Foundation has just launched an Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Fund. And what that's really dedicated to is really moving the needle on making sure that our communities are visible, making sure that we're understanding the different challenges across our different communities, because you can't just lump Asian and Pacific Islander into just these giant overarching bubbles. There's so many different cultures and communities within that each have their own individual challenges that do also have shared challenges. And it's just recognizing and sort of disaggregating the data on all of that of like, really, what can we be doing with our resources to support them in different ways. And so definitely look out for what that fund does and how it aims to support. And hopefully that model can be used in other cities as well. And then also at the same time, like I leave this with a lot of people is just like, we all have different time, talent, and treasure to offer to other people. And so, time is just giving yourself time to support and be at these things or volunteer with them. Treasure, if you have the financial means to give to an organization that is doing phenomenal work, please do so. And I especially say do so to the organizations that don't have marketing budgets to like tell people to give to them too, right? Because like they're the ones who need the support because they don't yet have a marketing budget to tell people all about the amazing things that they do. They're just focused on doing the work. And then, time, talent, and treasure. So talent, like I use again my skills as event producer to help uplift and provide these platforms for community so that it catalyzes hopefully future conversations for others, and everyone else has different amazing talents that they too can contribute, and the world wants to see you share those talents with the world. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you for being on the show. And I just want to point out one thing, and it just again embodies why I admire you. Is when I asked you, how can we be of service to you? You like went deep into how to be of service to the community, and that is just that just like you in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And so I just want to honor that and really just thank you so much for being here and having this conversation. And I hope everyone who's listening can see like why I am such a big fan and all the amazing things that you are doing in this community. So yeah, I thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ji. Again, I appreciate all that you've created. You create these spaces too with Hello Happy. Look at the amazing team that you've built. Look at the amazing spaces that they're creating for others, those conversations to happen. And again, like those are the things that like continue to fuel me, is like there's really so many amazing people doing amazing work around us. Like, let's give them their flowers. Let's give them a platform when we can. Let's support each other and build platforms together. It's just really a beautiful thing. So I can work on the serving me and doing me inside. And you heard a little bit of how I think we all should do like more of that work with ourselves, creating a home with ourselves so that we then can create homes for other people.
Oh,
so
mic drop. Okay, we can end there. Well, thank you again. And to everybody listening, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Have You Eaten? And we have plenty more wonderful guests coming up. So I hope you tune in. Thank you. Hello, HAPI fam. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell. And until next time, I hope your bellies and your hearts stay full.